Over the last month, I've asked you, the YouTube community, over 50,000 people, to rank the ghosts in Phasmophobia from the most to the least dangerous. Over 140,000 votes have been cast. Based on your ratings, I've given them all an average score, which I have converted to a ranking system, from S tier being the most dangerous to F tier being the least dangerous. Let's see how you've ranked them. Starting off right at the bottom, we have the Shade, with a score of 1.62. You have named it the weakest ghost in Phas. Completely understandable. The Shade doesn't really have any strengths going for it. Stereotypically, it's very shy, meaning that it might be easy to ID based off behaviour, and of course, having multiple people nearby, 2 or more, will massively reduce the chance of the Shade hunting. Overall, a very weak ghost. Next, we have the Spirit with a score of 1.84. It's sitting right at the bottom of the Shade in F tier. The Spirit is a very weak ghost, has no strengths and one big weakness: smudge sticks. They will prevent hunts for 3 whole minutes instead of a minute and a half, as per the other ghost types. Very easy to ID a Spirit based off this. Next we have the Poltergeist, a score of 2.22 in E tier. The Poltergeist can theoretically drain your sanity a bit faster by throwing items nearby you. Obviously a very ineffective ghost if the room is quite empty and might make it more obvious. Of course, if you can force the multi-item throw as well, they can be very easy to spot. Overall quite a weak ghost, but I might have expected it to be a little bit higher up, just because the Poltergeist can slowly chip away your sanity a bit faster than some of the others around this tier. Next we have the Myling with a score of 2.48, it just missed out on D tier. Pretty weak ghost though. Theoretically, using the parabolic microphone it will make more paranormal noises, which will be a bit of a giveaway as to what it is, and of course it being quieter during hunts, which is its strength, doesn't actually mean much in gameplay terms. Its footsteps are just quieter, you don't hear them till it's much closer from my experience. But of course you have the big booming heartbeats, the croaking, whatever other noises they make these days, just to give them away. I don't really see its strength as a very big one, very weak ghost. Now we have the Phantom with a score of 2.62 moving up to D tier. I'm honestly very surprised about this one. I think the Phantom is very underrated in terms of its threat. Looking at a Phantom can massively drain your sanity, bringing on early hunts. During hunts, you struggle to see Phantoms. They are invisible way more than they're visible, especially with the new translucent ghost form. Makes it extra difficult to spot and know where they are. And of course the Phantom has a very scary hidden ability where they can walk to you wherever you are on the map, do interactions nearby you, or even hunt if your sanity is low enough, right on top of you essentially. Something that I do get on a semi-frequent basis with Phantoms, so I am genuinely surprised to see it so low down. Next we have the Goryo with a score of 2.71, putting it in D tier. Very weak ghost in my opinion, very easy to ID. They very rarely wander from the room. You shouldn't see dots with your eyes, only with a video camera, and they don't really want to do dots interactions if you're nearby. So 3 very simple ways that you can spot a Goryo, and it doesn't really have any strengths going for it. Next we have the Yurei, score of 2.77, putting it down in D tier. The Yurei is a really strange one in my opinion. I've played for over 1,000 hours now, I can confidently tell you I've never noticed the Yurei affecting my sanity any differently to any other ghost, and that is supposedly their power. They are supposed to have a stronger effect on your sanity. Very generic ghost in my opinion, not surprised to see it down here. Next we have the Wraith with a score of 2.78, putting it in D tier. The journal entry for the Wraith is quite scary, but in reality it's not that bad. Of course Salt is a very easy way to ID the Wraith, see if they leave footsteps that you can see with UV light. If you don't, you know it's a Wraith. The only thing I will say that the Wraith has going for it is that it has a scary hidden power, not too unlike the Phantoms. The Wraith can teleport to players, and can either do interactions near them or can just hunt if your sanity is low enough. Doesn't seem to happen terribly often from my experience, but still something you should bear in mind, which does make them a little bit more menacing. Next we have the Hantu with a score of 2.84, putting it in D tier. So the Hantu is faster in cold temperatures and slower in warm temperatures. Essentially revolves around you keeping the breaker on, which is quite easy to do on most maps. I have to say, even if you mess up and let it get cold, the Hantu is just not terribly fast in the coldest temperatures. I would love a buff to them to make them more menacing, because as it currently stands, it's no big deal if you accidentally let it get cold. On the contrary, if you do let it warm up, if you keep the breaker on for a long time, they do move super slow, it is noticeable. Also makes it an easy way to ID them based off looking at their speed, so yeah, pretty weak ghost. Next we have the Ibarke, one of the newer ghosts, a score of 2.88, putting it in D tier. The Ibarke is super easy to spot and ID in my opinion, and it doesn't have anything to help it initiate hunts or catch you during a hunt. I think it's really weak and I probably would have put it a bit lower. The Ibarke can be super easy to ID because they don't always leave fingerprints, but they do most of the time. Also, you may see the unique handprints, which does have an extra finger. And of course, they can make fingerprints disappear faster than normal. So 3 very obvious ways to spot a Barke without getting all the evidence. Next we have the Oni with a score of 2.96, it just misses out on C tier, it is in D tier. The Oni is theoretically more active when people are nearby, making it easier to find, which is a weakness. And of course, being theoretically more active means you are supposedly going to get more ghost events, which means your sanity will probably drain a bit faster. In reality, this doesn't always happen from my experience, but I definitely see the potential for Oni, so I think it's fair to have it somewhere around here, around the middle. Next we have the Mare with a score of 2.97, it has literally just missed out on C tier again. The Mare is quite a simple ghost though, so if you have the building lights off in the room the Mare's in, it increases the chance for it to hunt, it can hunt you from 60% sanity. However, if the building light is on, it can only hunt you from 40% sanity, so it has the potential to be an early hunter, so I think it's fair to keep it around the middle mark here. Even though it is quite simple to keep the lights on in general, you might struggle on some of the bigger maps like Asylum if it does do the breaker. And of course, Mez should now only turn lights off and never on, something that you can look out for. Do be careful though, because this might happen coincidentally with other ghost types, this has fooled me in the past. Now we're moving up to C tier, finally, we have the Onryo with a score of 3.18. The Onryo is very interesting in my opinion, so if they blow out a candle they can insta-hunt you, essentially from 100% sanity. Scary. However, if there are no candles nearby, they can hunt you naturally from 60% sanity. You can then bring in a candle to make them feel threatened, meaning that they will only be able to hunt you from 50% sanity. They will essentially act like a crucifix. But of course, if they do blow out the candle, you risk having an early hunt anyway, so it's a bit of a toss-up if you want to do it or not. Perhaps having multiple candles nearby would be the best option. Very interesting ghost though, and I can see the potential for early hunt, so I understand why it's been placed here. Next we have the Banshee with a score of 3.44, putting it in C tier. I was so curious to see where the Banshee was going to be rated. I'm happy to see it's not near the top though, because I think it's super overrated. The Banshee has a lot of weaknesses. I think, in effect, its strength of only targeting one person is actually a weakness. I do not see this as a strength. It makes it very predictable and means that everyone else in the building is safe. Of course it has another big weakness, crucifixes. 5 meter radius protection range instead of 3 meters is actually quite significant. And of course they do have the potential to do some early hunts, but I've not seen it in many months, probably about 8 months at this point, so it seems to be super rare. From talking to a lot of people, I know they are terrified of Banshees, but I do think they are overrated, so I am happy to see it here more in the middle. Next we have the Yokai with a score of 3.48, just missing out on B tier, putting it down in C tier. The Yokai definitely has a lot of potential to be scary. Talking nearby can make it early hunts, from the mid 70s from my experience. Its main strength is the shock factor of catching you off guard, which does happen more often than I would like to admit. The Yokai's weakness is that it can't hear you as well during hunts, it can only hear you when it's a bit closer. So yeah, I definitely think the Yokai is a bit of a menace in some missions. Definitely one to look out for. I think it deserves to be around here. Next we have the Djinn, score of 3.66, putting it in B tier. The Djinn has the potential to be scary, so when the breaker's on and it's chasing you and it's more than 4 meters away, it will zoom, it will go much faster. Of course, turning off the power can stop it using this ability, so keeping the breaker off is crucial. Of course the Djinn has a hidden ability as well. When it's nearby you, it can magically drain 25% sanity and it will do this silently, meaning that you can have some very early unexpected hunts, something that happens to me on a semi-frequent basis with the Djinn, which is something that maybe makes them a little bit more scary. I believe there was a little change recently as well where the Djinn can no longer turn off the breaker to complement its power. So overall it does have the potential to be scary, I can see why it's up here, but if you can control the breaker well, you should be okay with the Djinn. Next we have the Twins, a newer ghost, score of 3.90, putting it in B tier, just misses out on A tier. So the Twins are very interesting, 2 ghosts on the map, one will act as a main ghost with a ghost room that will give off evidence, the second will wander and do interactions. However, there is a catch, and I think this is why the Twins have been rated so high. Either ghost can choose to hunt. You don't know which one's going to hunt you, but only one will. So there is a lot of potential to be hunted from areas that you're not expecting. If you have an escape route planned out, but the other twin decides to hunt that is actually somewhere else, they could catch you off guard. I can definitely see the potential for them being menacing. However, I do think they're super easy to ID, so once you do know this, you can keep protection items nearby, smudge sticks, etc, and be prepared for either twin to hunt you. Next we have the Demon, score of 4.12, putting it in A tier. So the Demon is the master of early hunting. It will hunt you from 70 and there is nothing you can do to change that threshold. Of course you can use smudge sticks, pills and crucifixes to try and hold it at bay, but that natural 50% that it is for most of the ghost types is 70 for the Demon. If you can't get evidence quickly, you're in big trouble. Chain hunt after chain hunt after chain hunt. It can be relentless. I'm not surprised to see the Demon so high up, especially with the new hunt changes as well, which makes them a bit more scary. The Demons are more of a threat, now more than ever. Next we have the Raiju with a score of 4.56, just creeping into the S tier. I can definitely see why it's up here. The Raiju has the potential to hunt early and it has the potential to be fast during hunts. Terrifying. So the Raiju revolves around electronic equipment. If electronic equipment is nearby and turned on, it can hunt you from around the mid 60s from my experience. And of course, if a hunt is ongoing and there is electronic equipment nearby that is turned on, the Raiju will move pretty damn fast. So yes, a very menacing ghost overall, especially because the ghost will probably hunt from around the ghost room, which is probably where your equipment isn't turned on. So the only saving grace here is that once you're far enough away from the ghost room, the Raiju will theoretically be slower again. But of course these early hunts definitely can catch you off guard. Definitely one of the big menaces at the moment. I'm not surprised to see the Raiju up here in S tier. And we're here at the end with a score of 4.74. Putting it in S tier, you have named the Revenant the most dangerous ghost in Phasmophobia. I won't lie, I am a little surprised. I do think the Revenant is overrated. So the Revenant of course is going to be really fast if it has line of sight of you, but if you turn a corner, it will crawl. Super slow. On most maps, you have a lot of things to use to your advantage as well to break line of sight, and of course a smudge stick can guarantee that. The Revenant also has nothing to help it hunt you early, so it will hunt from 50. I do think the Revenant's weakness is just too glaring to put it at the top personally, but it looks like it is still proving a big menace out there. Will the Revenant stay at the top going forward? We will see. We will see. So there you go, they are your ratings and rankings for the most and least dangerous ghosts in Phasmophobia. How do you think you did overall? Are there any you would like to see tweaked individually? Any you really agree or disagree with? Let me know in the comments. I think overall you've done a great and fantastic job. There are a few that I would tweak a little bit, but of course I can see the reasonings for most of them here, so I honestly think you've done a really good job. If you do have any ideas for any further community tier lists you might like to see, do let me know down in the comments. This was actually really interesting to do and super fun. I hope you enjoyed the video, thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.